Hello. I don't know. Alright.
That just as you don't know.
Just checking. I don't know how long I'm supposed to wear any stuff. I'm getting it inside.
Grow and shape this body of yours. That doesn't mean to say that you're not doing it.
Are we ready to roll, Ash?
You don't.
Yes? Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the Fursuit making panel of Fursuit. Woohoo! So this panel isn't necessarily going to be us talking at you, but it's going to be more you talking at us. Like we can, if you start with a question, we can kind of roll with it and share lots of things that we know, and we're happy to share with you guys. But it's mainly going to be a question-driven panel this year, because I can't teach you how to make a fursuit in an hour. I would probably need a couple days at least.
You would become rich if you could do that.
So yes, I'll probably introduce myself. So I'm Skye. I've been making since 2014. I mainly do kimono style and toonie style and
I am Triple C, Creature Creations and Costumes, and I have been making since 2016, and I have done like every style at least once. But my main specialties at the moment is realistic and toonie.
And we need more of those in Australia, in my opinion. So does anybody actually have any burning questions to like kick us off? Yes.
If you've got realistic and tuning, what's the others?
So I've done kimono, I've done anime styles, I have done a mix where we take like realistic and then we add toonie eyes and stuff like that. I've replicated like Disney movie styles as well.
Mascots.
Mascots, yes. Mascots. I did Nana the dog for a production of Peter Pan, a quad suit for that. So they wanted us to
quad suit.
Yeah, it was my like second fursuit.
Oh my god.
I was the quad suit was the first thing I ever tried to make, and it didn't go well.
Yeah.
Don't try to make a quad suit for your first suit. It's just not going to end well for you.
Yeah, so we replicated Disney's style for that because Peter Pan. So
Yeah. This is that kind of stuff. All right. Does anybody have any fursuit making questions? Yes.
I just wanted to ask, did you make the base with the suit?
This cockatoo base is the old Christtunes base. I don't think they sell it anymore, but they have a new one and it looks really good. I chose the older one because I'm friends with them and they just kind of let me pick what I want. I chose the older one because it suits the big shape of the black cockatoo more.
Yes.
Working on the new Skye, I can see you don't have that clunky sort of muzzle look where muzzle goes bang up the head. So you've got the new style of doing that. How did you work with that?
Great. I get to talk about everything I did wrong.
I call you out or anything?
No, call me out. 100%.
I think that's a cool innovation to make that smooth curve.
Honestly, so I need to actually have a look what I'm actually looking at so I can point at things.
Here's one I
So you
made.
enter
This is what I prepared earlier. Hi friends, welcome. Honestly, okay, it's a little bit funny. I find like when you're fursuit making the style, if you don't get it exactly how the market wants it, people won't look at it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness,
it's
yes.
so brutal.
Yeah, like literally I'll post a suit that I'm like the proudest of in the world. I'm like, yes, this is my masterpiece. And like I'll get like 90 likes, not even kidding. And I've got 15,000 followers on Instagram and I'll get 90 likes. Then I post something that I made in like 3 days and I was like, for the lulz, we'll do this some boy. And then it gets like 2,000 likes. I don't know.
I'll tell you what, it's a style thing.
Yeah.
And everybody was coming up to my table going, oh my god, Skye, your styles, you've improved so much. And I'm like, I made one change. That's it. Like, I changed how I did my eyes, and I have changed nothing else about my style. Like, the smoothing and stuff has come with practice. So that's mainly, I literally add a strip of foam, like, I have the green stuff here. Thin green stuff, and I just kind of will place it over anything I don't want to have really, really sharp angles in, and that kind of smooths it out and kind of makes it look cheapy. And I've noticed my eyes have been getting bigger, my muzzles have just been getting smaller. So I had someone on the first who would meow at me, and I was like, you want to try that again? Do I look like a cat? But yeah, that's how that. So anybody else have any pressing questions? Yes.
What is the best way to measure fursuit heads? Because I keep getting measurements slightly wrong and it's really annoying.
You can
Okay.
I have a chat. So you can take that one.
It depends what you're making. So if I'm doing realistic, I don't take measurements because all my sizes are adjustable. But for toonie, I do around the biggest part of the face, which is normally like the bridge of your nose. And then I do from the center of your head down to the bottom of your chin. is what I do.
Yeah, that tends to be what I do as well. I've started essentially making a one size fits most. People with larger heads, obviously, I probably need to know and make adjustments, but I literally will just take my bucket head base pattern and make it about 25 inches. Always add about 1.5 inches more than you think you need.
The foam shrinks.
Yeah, the foam shrinks, and also when you add fur on it, it kind of like
Yeah, that's been
crushes it.
Yeah, 'cause that's been my main problem, so that's something I wanted to ask about.
But if I take Skye off here,
Oh, and side note while she's doing that. So remember, if your bucket head, for example,
ta-da!
if you're using like a 1-inch foam, add 1 inch to your measurements, because
Yes.
when you bring your two edges together, you're gonna suck it in that inch, because
Yeah, okay.
you want the internal, like, I don't know how to explain that better than trust me and just add that where the measurement.
Yeah, so like if you have a big bit of foam like this, even if you're using that thickness, but imagine this is thick, that might be 10 inches, but when you actually wrap it around, the inside compresses and you lose about 1.5 inches.
Okay.
So that's a really big issue. I usually tend to work on one of these guys. This is an Ed head. You can buy it here in Brisbane from Barnes. They're about $150.
Wait, really?
They're on the expensive side, but honestly, this has lasted me too long now, and I've seen people who are just beaten up. So they last you, and because he's a 24-inch head, that's larger than most people. So if he fits, then you can probably go, oh, all right. If he fits like firmly, then you can go, okay, I might need to add a little bit more. You can get a female version of this that is 23 inches.
And now there is a new male and female one as well. But
Yeah,
you
the
do
blue
have to
ones.
import them like I did, and apparently I paid like twice as much as Skye, so.
Yes.
What's better, a full neck or a back seam down the neck to wrap it up around? And...
So,
Repeating the question for the stream, because we have to repeat the question.
Oh, we do? Okay.
So the question was,
Are we streaming? Yes, we are. Okay. Hi, Twitch. So the question was, what is better, having just the full neck or having a zip? And I think I'll answer for Toonie, and you can answer for realistic, because the answer almost changes.
Yes.
So with Toonie, the actual way that I'll do it is I'll have my head base on, and I'll add a little bit of like fabric around the neck, because this boy have a long necky, and not many people have that long a neck. So I add a little bit of fabric to kind of push it up and make his neck a bit thicker, and then I just literally tape all around it, because this has a natural curve of the body, so I don't need to necessarily be picky with how I do it. And then that pulls on naturally, and it will sit naturally as well. However, with realistic, it's a different story.
Okay, so with realistic, normally they're obviously smaller than your Toonie heads. So this guy's a good example.
Yeah, go.
It's already open, yeah, because I was going to have to struggle with that. So I put a hidden zipper down the back. And that is because I make these a bit tighter to the head than what you would.
Yeah.
So using my Ed head, I'll change it, probably add just a little bit more just to be on the safe side. And I sculpt it down the back of the head. I'll zip this up to show you what I mean.
Can I move your water cup so we don't get water places? That would be bad.
Oh, thank you. So, see how it kind of goes out and then back in? I just sculpt it with the side of the head. And when you do that, there is not much room here for you to get your head through. So, you just add the little invisible zip. It's also really good if you have glasses. Foam or Toonie adds it so that it can go straight on your face rather than having to pull it over the top of your glasses.
Never actually thought of that before. Ooh, learning things. Any yes?
The black cockatoo head, did
Yes.
you cut each like feather out?
Yes.
Oh,
So,
you poor thing.
the question was if I cut each feather out. So, I'll show chat because they probably won't be able to see.
We're on one main cam at the moment. Oh, there we go. Da, da, da.
So, yes, I cut everyone one at a time. And then I went and cut them a second time because once you cut the one underneath, it slightly changes the one on top. And I've also sanity.
No, I'm not do that.
And this isn't even the first time I've done it. I've done it like 8 times now.
8?
Yeah.
I really see that before.
Everyone requested. Everyone. As soon as
Because it's good.
As soon as I did the first time, and I was like, I'm never doing it again. And then someone else requested, I'm like,
And then I was like, hey, Trey. Like
So,
that,
yeah.
please. But yeah, any other questions so far? I can just roll. Oh yeah, go again. Knock yourself out.
I know you did a video on this recently, but after I took that advice, I was still sort of waiting to see if the results would come out there. But I was just wondering if you had come up with anything else, or if you knew anything else. But it was like how to sort of get your suits out there, how to get.
Oh, how to advertise. Well, for one thing, the 2021 algorithm is a fickle beast, and I don't like it very much.
No, it is body slamming me.
Yeah.
And like, that's all I can say.
I found something that, at least as me personally, kind of growing as a maker, sharing your techniques. Like, I feel like a lot of like back when I started back in 2014, there was like no tutorials. There was one, I think, that used like a plastic mesh technique, and that's how we and that's how we ended up with Dorito Movement, if anybody remembers that. So that was from that tutorial. I found it actually. I'd love to do a video just redoing that style of tutorial and see if it comes out any better.
And when I made my first one, I found one with fiberglass resin. And
The slush casting.
Yeah, they use fiberglass resin for a fursuit. I did for my first fursuit. Worst decision I ever made.
So heavy.
Resin scares me.
And I got the little fiberglass things in my face.
New.
Yeah.
But honestly, like that, I feel like that kind of transparency, people really value that. Because when I started, I had to pretty much figure it out by myself. Did you guys know that Mischief Makers had a fursuit tutorial up, but they took it down? Because I don't know why they took it down, but I remember when I made this. I made this head base actually. This is head base has been refurbed at least 3 times. So I actually made this head base using Mischief Makers tutorial, but they took it down obviously since they got a bit bigger, and they were like, wait a minute, other people can do this now. but that means less money for me. So I don't know particularly why they took it down, but it was this very similar style, and I've kind of reworked it and kind of developed my own style. It's really all trial and error, and if you find something that's neat and that you're content with sharing, post it. Post whips everywhere, always, forever. People love seeing that. They'll be like, oh, this looks like it's going to be exciting, and they'll follow you to see the finished product. But there's a lot to be said about algorithms and what I recommend. Time of posting.
Huge one.
It's ridiculous.
I look at my analytics posting time, it'll mean the difference from, like I said, 90 to 2,000 likes.
Stupid. Yes.
I'm trying to work out how to put the perfect claw in. My claws are wobbling in position vertically.
Are you talking resin?
They're resin claws, and putting them in over a slit in the top of a fur glove, and I'm just getting a little bit wobble to the side as I glue them in.
As you glue them in.
So what's your
So,
favorite way to do that?
it still happens to me. It's a practice thing, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, Twitch asks how to get straight claws when using resin claws.
When using resin. So it is just a practice thing. The best trick that I have found is before you put it in, just add a tiny little bit of glue to like the top or the bottom, and then like tuck it in, make sure it's in the right spot, and then glue around. But even then, sometimes it will still move. So that's probably a really important thing, and something that we've both done today is that no matter how many years you have behind you or how much experience you have, you will make mistakes. We're human, they're handmade.
They're handmade items, and I feel like lately in the community there's this really big expectation of, especially like fursuit makers, especially well-known ones, having them be perfect. If it pops a scene, cancel it.
It gives me so much anxiety.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's scary because I'll make something and I'll be like sending it off, and I'll just be sitting here sweating,
Literally
just waiting for them to be like, Skye, this popped, and I'm like, yeah, fine, I'll fix it. But that's the thing, is as long as you're honest with that, and as long as you're like, no, that's your fault, go away. It's partially your fault, so you take it back and you fix it. As long as you fix that mistake and you work constantly to improve, but there also needs to be that expectation that you will never be perfect, which is really hard. Because sometimes you'll look at something and you'll be like, that's uneven. That shave spot is too short.
Yeah.
And if I made a joke that I was going to bring old Skye so I could show exactly what I did wrong. Because I am picky, and I can go, the shave is not neat. I clipped this too short so that the spots aren't sitting as nicely. I didn't sew it in well enough so the ears came off. There's a huge hole in there, But, you know, from that, I was able to kind of go, okay, I need to change how I use how I sew, how I close up my seams or whatever, and I can use that and I can grow. I think that's honestly, if I were to teach anything tonight, it's that, because I feel like there's so many really tough expectations nowadays on suit makers. So yeah. All right, any other questions that we've got going on? Oh, yeah,
We've got a microphone coming.
oh, we've got a microphone. Thank you, Foxy.
Thank you, Foxy.
There we go.
You talked a lot about trial and error before. How can you do that effectively without wasting massive amounts of
I
foam?
have a good answer for that. Okay, so the first thing you have to remember is perfection doesn't come from your first try, right? But you need to remember to learn something, like not just make it and then be like, yeah, this is great, next one. I will want you to sit down and look at it and be like, well, why don't I like this? And the best trick that I've learned is to leave it for a day and then come back the next day.
And if you still hate it.
And if you still hate it, there you go. And also learn from other people, like Google foam bases.
Yeah,
Of your
I do that
favourite
so
makers.
much. Like,
Of your favourite makers.
yeah, seriously, like if you look at a style and you go, that, I want that. So for me, like my main inspiration at the moment is Color Carnage. Green, if you have ever seen them, their stuff is awesome.
Fabulous.
I've been watching them since the very beginning, and I've always been really into their style. And I've kind of tried to take little bits, like ways they do their eyes, and kind of manipulate it and change it into my own style. Thank you. Oh, we've got Twitch questions now. Thank you. Well, hold on a minute. I'll answer that one next. But yeah, so essentially when you're working to improve, like I will literally, every single time that I make a suit, I will sit down sometimes, I'll look at the photos and I'll go, oh, I hate it. Yeah. Like, and it's not a bad, I hate it. It's not like this is a disgusting suit. It's I can see 1000% I could have done this better, I could have done this better, I could have done this better. And there's kind of a lot of like soul searching you got to kind of do there, because it's like you kind of think, well, why didn't I do that in the first place? It's just because you're learning. Yeah, essentially. So
And a good rule is to just finish the project.
you'll
You'll
finish
feel
it.
so much
Just
better when you finish it, because you can spend 1,000,000 times doing it again and again and you won't feel satisfied, but if you just finish the first
Fun fact, I hated your DBase up until the very end. And then I loved it once I found it.
Everyone loves the DS.
Yeah, everyone was like, is the deer for sale? And I'm like, no, he's not. There was another question, which is Fursuit making a hobby or a career?
Okay, so for me, I'm at that point where I have to decide if I want it to be a hobby or a career, because that means I have to change my prices, and I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet. I don't know if I'm happy with where I am to change my prices to pay myself minimum wage. So for the moment, I am doing it full time because I'm lucky enough to still be able to live with my parents. So I can support doing it full time, but I've kind of got to make up my mind. The bad thing with making it a career is when you make something a career, it loses a bit of its magic.
It really do.
It loses a bit of its fun because you have to do it every day. And even if you're not feeling it that day, you have to do it. It's a job.
I mean, there's something to be said about the magics of working from home.
Yes.
And I can come to Fursuit and I don't have to sit and grovel to a boss being like, please, can I take my paid time off? Please, I worked so hard. But no, I can just be like, yeah, I go in.
Or if you're sick,
Yeah, if you're sick, you can take that day off. There's ups and roundabouts, but I'll put out one reason. If you have any reason why you shouldn't, you have to do your own tax.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
No.
Yeah. And business taxes are a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
Whole nother ball game.
Just get a good accountant and get them to do it. Everything is a business expense. For me, really, I kind of look. Originally, when I graduated school, I actually wanted to be a lighting and sound technician. And I started doing that professionally, started doing works, and then I kind of realized that in the actual industry, they get treated awfully. And I was like, okay, maybe not. And literally, this was my hobby at the time. At the time, I had just moved out of home. So I was doing hospitality work, but honestly, I hate hospo. Who doesn't hate hospo? Anybody who's working hospo goes, nah, it sucks. So yeah, and all the hospo workers are like, yeah. Karen flashbacks. Karens. But then I kind of was like, wait, I'm making money off this. How far can I take it? And honestly, for me, my saving grace has been YouTube.
Oh, yes.
And I'm intensely lucky. I got intensely lucky with that.
TikTok's been mine.
Really?
Yeah.
You get paid?
Well, I get a lot of my commission and sales through TikTok, and the algorithm has hated me recently because I've got like 50k on there, and I get 10 views. But TikTok, when it wasn't like hating me, was the best thing that has ever come to my making, because the amount of people that it drove my way was incredible. So when I was like auctioning on pre-mades, it was getting in front of the right people, so I was able to go to events and stuff like that, because I had that little bit of extra cash flow.
Right, we should move on to the next question. I think Skye was next, and then we'll go to you.
My question was for magnets. If you're using magnets for like expressions and things, is there a particular type of brand or something that works better? Because I know some hold like way too tight and some way too loose. Like,
Metal magnets.
I'll be real, I hate magnets.
Yes, they're the better magnets.
So actually, the way I see things going is Velcro.
I tested Velcro on a suit. Yeah.
So I've messed around with Velcro a lot because I personally don't. Oh, sorry, I missed a Twitch question. Hold it there for the next time. But I find that magnets to be really unreliable. So I actually have
And they love to do this fabulous thing where even if you glue them in like the perfect way, they snip.
We'll get a close-up cam if Ash is available.
They're just not fun. Don't like
Can we get a close-up cam of this so I can actually show you? So I couldn't. The reason why they're sewn on like this is these are the strongest magnets I could buy. Like these, I can't get them apart when I put them together without like using tools of brute force. But these, like even if I clip them together, like I could just. So they're a fickle beast. So that depends.
I haven't had issues with that. Magnets Australia has magnets that hold up to 100 kilos, so.
But they're expensive.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Expensive.
And
Annoying.
annoying.
And dangerous. You pinch yourself and it hurts. I've got blisters from it. Yeah, I use them in every suit.
It can be a bit of a dick around, but if you're looking for an easier method, then definitely go with Velcro. I did the magnetic feed paw bottoms, but the problem with those is if you kick something, accidentally, the bottom of your foot just flies off. Because, you know, if one magnet comes undone, everything kind of slides, and then it's just not as strong. So if you just end up kicking your foot too hard, I've had a fix. Don't have a toddler with it or something, I don't know. But
I've had a fix for that. So, what did you use to put your magnets?
there was a 3D print for it.
Yeah. So the 3D print that I use instead of, I guess you use the round one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
the round one.
square one kind of fixes that issue. And also, I think Fuzzbot Studios sells something like that.
Yeah, though you can get the print off Thingiverse.
Yes, and they sell the magnets with it, but I would recommend buying your own magnets because from what I found, they're not quite strong enough.
There's a faucet making hack. If there's a 3D print
strong enough.
like that, it's probably available on
Yes,
Thingiverse.
100%. It is available.
Alright, let me hold on. Let's do the Twitch question real quick. What was it? Skye made a circle yet? Yes, I've made a cheese. I have made a cheese. It was an interesting experience. Foam cheeses are hard. But if you look at my website, his name's Nias, if you would like to. And we had a question over there. Miss Foxy, thank you very much.
So for people who are just starting to use sewing machines, what's your best recommendation for how you tackle for doing it the first time after hand sewing everything?
Great answer.
You've got great answer. Well, I'll do mine and you do yours. So honestly, I find with this, not all machines are made equal.
Yes.
And here's an actual fun fact, just before you get pulled into buying a machine. Just because it says heavy duty on it doesn't actually mean it's heavy duty. So I had this machine called this Toyota Jeans, and it's advertised as a heavy duty, heavy fabrics machine. I put my fur through it and it died. So essentially what that means when they have heavy duty is the motor is a little bit stronger.
But that doesn't mean they put metal parts in it instead of plastic
So
parts.
if you're looking for a machine that's going to last a long time, you want entire metal interiors.
Singer Heavy Duty is a great one for that. They're always on sale. They're always around $300. If you're paying $600-700, you're paying too much because they're on sale like every other month.
Yeah, in terms of getting fur through your machine, that is a fickle beast to overcome. Honestly, like what I've kind of found is make your stitch length as long as you can. That tends to help because the resistance of the fur will shorten it anyway.
Yeah.
Like if I have a 5 stitch, which is really, really long, and I put it through my fur, it'll go down to a 2. But yeah.
Yeah. Other thing with that is adjusting your bobbin tension and adjusting your press foot tension and what speed your what's the little metal thingies? Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, those things I said. So you want a higher tension, and you want to be cleaning your machine at least once a week because fur will get everywhere and it will clog everything, and then you won't be able to go anywhere because it's everywhere.
I mean, fur gets everywhere anyway.
Yeah.
When you think it can't get like inside, it is there.
It's everywhere.
So clean it.
Like, I gave it to my machine technician. He was like, I think I pulled a whole cat out of there. I'm like, I'm sorry. And he's like, my whole workshop's filled with fur now. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I know I should clean it. Other thing that's really useful are walking feet.
Yes.
Walking feet are great. They're a bit more difficult to attach to your machine than a normal machine because you've got to actually like take several bits off and screw other things in, and there's a little like lever you got to push in.
But it's worth learning.
Yeah, it basically, you know the little things that sit underneath your machine and do that? Feed dogs, those things. There's more ones on top now, so it actually helps. And one of the trick I'm going to say is if you're sewing things like vinyl, you'll find that your machine just bluntly, stupidly refuses to go. Baby powder on top of it.
Stops the grip.
Yeah, so it stops that grip.
Or a piece of paper, which is the same thing I use for quilting.
Yeah, I use baking paper sometimes, but you just make sure you get it out of the seams. All right, we have any other questions? Yes. Oh wait, we've got the microphone. It's coming.
Oh, it's coming.
It's coming. Betty Foxy, the best.
I just wanted to know, do you have any tips on like when you're sewing something like a bodysuit, like, and then you turn it over and it's just kind of and you've gone through like the fur, like one side's gone. Whoop.
Oh, and you kind of only sew almost one bit of fabric. That sucks.
And then, so say you've got like a seam this long and you've only done it on like this little bit. I'll just unpick that little bit and then start my line right like before it kind of, I've unpicked it and go over it a couple of times and go over it a couple of times and it'll be right.
You can also bypass this with the way you pin. So I've abandoned pins altogether and now use clips, simply because I don't like being stabbed. But pins do have their advantage, and one of them is, so if I don't have actually a bit of fabric, but pretend this is fabric, and pretend it's folded, you pin vertically instead of horizontally, so you stick all the pointy bits out, or you can stick them in, depending on your preference of stabbingness. And that will hold, and you can sew directly over all of the pins, so you don't actually take it out when you sew it, and that should keep it fairly good.
But keep an eye on that, because if your needle hits the pin, it's going to break it. And
if it keeps happening and it's bothering you that much, add more seam allowance.
Yeah.
Because that makes it a bit harder to miss.
Yeah.
I should probably do that. I've been doing that a lot lately. So don't worry. Any other questions? We'll go at the back since Scar's had a question. Sorry. Now you can ask as many as you like, but
that's what we're
gonna vary things.
Foxy.
Thank you, Foxy.
For a new maker, what would you?
No, you're right.
Would you suggest buying a base online, like a pre-made fur base or foam base, or would you say you should start 100% making the base yourself?
I have some interesting thoughts on this, actually. Now, I'm going to bring up Dino Masks, ladies and gentlemen. We all know those favorite things. TikTok, they're everywhere. Now, I have a little bit of a bone to pick with Dino Masks. Like, people, all my subscribers are like, what do you think of Dino Masks? And I say, they are good for kids.
Yeah.
Because they're good for kids. They're good for kids who can't use sewing machines. They're good for kids who can't, use sharp things or scissors or hot glue. Because it's easy. So my opinion is, if you're actually wanting to learn how to fursuit make, do the foam. Because it's a whole part of it, and there's only so much you can learn about foam work from using somebody else's base. And honestly, in my opinion, it's a really big annoyance to mount foam bases. It's one of my least favorite things to do.
Expanding foam base.
Yeah.
I kind of got a trick for it, but that's like a lot of details go in for that. If you can buy another maker's like foam base, like what's used for these ones, like hand carved, go for it.
Hand carved ones, yeah.
Investigate it. Figure out how they did things.
Pick it apart.
Yeah. It's a great way to learn.
But like my personal recommendation is to learn as much as you can, because there'll be things that you learn from other makers, even if you think that they won't apply to you. Like you can basically go, oh, this person did this. Okay, I can take that and I can adjust it this way and I can use it in a completely different way. And that's when you kind of start innovating and you kind of start finding things that work for you specifically. And you can kind of create your own style and create your own techniques and really grow as a creator. If you're just kind of doing it as I want to make a suit for myself, then by all means knock yourself out with a pre-made base. But if you're looking to pursue it professionally, then I recommend doing the carving, if that helps. Yeah. Alright, next question. I think Skye had her hand up. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, when it comes to ordering for online, because I figure that's how most of you guys do it, how do you figure out like how much to order so that you're not getting waste? Or is it better to buy in bulk and then hope that you use that color again later?
Well, I use a trick that I learned from when I did seamstressing. So like, before I did Fursuit making, I made costumes, dresses, cosplays. I still do, but just not as much anymore, and I make ball gowns and stuff like that. So the general rule that I learned is, say for example you're making like a bodysuit. So you'd measure from your shoulders to your feet, times that by 2, because you need front and back. Then you measure from your shoulders to your hands, times that by 2, because you need 2 arms. And that's how I basically work it out.
For a planty bodysuit.
Yeah.
But maybe add a little bit more for digi, because you kind of got those curves.
Yeah.
But my general thing is, it honestly can depend on like how, like if for example, because of the way that fur kind of works, if I have, for example, if I have a bodysuit with a lightning bolt marking, you can technically divide up the lightning bolt into sections and get it on a smaller bit of fur, but I personally prefer to do it in one big chunk. That's just me. I don't know if you probably would do
I do the same thing.
Yeah, so it's work. That's going to mean, so if that lightning bolt is like a meter long, I'm going to need a meter of fur to fit that. So always order more than you need.
Yes.
And if all else, you can sell it, or you can use it to make tails, or you can use it to make other projects.
So there's this fabulous thing called batch colours, which means if you don't order all of it in one go, there is a chance that it's a slightly different colour.
And then
it's a nightmare.
And then you look at it and you're like,
good luck finding the same colour again.
yeah, it's gone forever. All right, any other questions we've got so far? Over there.
So in terms of like complex markings, what's the easiest way to get it without bunching up? Because I've decided I don't have a smoke with it.
Do you have a good answer to that? Because I don't.
Yes, I do. So, depends what you're making. For example, spots is mainly just a practice thing because spots are really tricky. But one thing that I have learned, especially with small markings, is when you pin them in, so I always pin it just the top, the bottom, the left and the right for small markings, you may actually find out that when your pieces are together, because fur's going to stretch, that it may have like stretched one way or another, so you may actually need to trim it and adjust like where you're stitching. So the best advice, pin really well and then see, well, if it's bunching up here, then I probably need to snip just a little bit more to stitch around. And generally too, to help with small markings, I'll do a whip stitch first. And then if I'm happy with it, because that's really quick, you know, you're not wasting much time. If I'm happy with it, I'll go over with my stronger stitching.
Yeah, then you can see it. So that's a good idea, actually. I personally despise like small markings. They are the bane of my existence. I know I've seen you do some crazy stuff, and I'm like,
Do that zebra.
man.
The lines.
The zebra's
If he's
nice.
wandering around, the lines are like the size of my pinky. Yeah. So that was a nightmare. But the pin first. Adjust as needed if you see it being wrinkly. I did a quick stitch over it so then I could make sure that it was where I wanted, and I did my secure stitching.
So yeah, we got another one? Raka, and we'll go to you next.
Just wondering, what's the best way to actually go about patterning a DVC base? Because
That's a you question.
I am actually planning on making a semi-realistic horse and need advice on patterning.
Okay, so I'm just assuming that you've got your base all ready to go. So, so the best thing to do is to put it on like one of these guys and to pattern it all at once.
Okay.
If you pattern in different sections, it's just gonna move and it's not gonna work. I've tried a million times to just like pattern the face and then do the rest, never works. So pattern the whole thing all at once with your duct tape. DVC is brilliant for symmetry. So you can just do one half, they're fabulous with their symmetry, but just pattern it all at once. The whole thing, do the whole thing at once.
Alright, and you were next. Yes.
Sorry, Foxy.
Thank you.
How do you work with glasses?
Got answers for that too.
I just tend to add a little bit more space. Like instead of taking your measurement from here, you kind of take it.
I just tell them to put their glasses on while you're measuring. Because yeah, essentially how wide they are. So just measure with your glasses on. Zippers, like I said, are a fabulous thing. Because when you have your zipper that runs all the way up the back here, that means you can just just like shove it on your face and zip it up rather than having to like
yeah.
heat it down. So
You just kind of make the head a little bit bigger.
yeah.
Generally, like if you have a really, really spacious head, then glasses are no worries. My main worry for you is fogging.
Yeah.
So everyone was always like, oh, can you make a Fursuit with glasses space? I say, can you wear contacts? Because you're gonna fog and you're not gonna be able to see.
There is some sprays that are supposed
yeah.
to help it, but they work for like 20 minutes and then that's it. So,
I mean, the other bypass of that is a trick I use with my kimono heads, and that's fans. But they are finicky and they mean washing your fursuit is difficult.
and
Because we know what happens with water and electricity.
you can do something that you think is completely minor, like you can do this and then all of a sudden your fan doesn't work.
Yeah, which I don't like very much. But yeah, that's about how I deal with it. And then you had a question, yes?
Yeah, I was.
Good Mike.
Although I should comment on something that just came up in my soldering work, which is to use a thicker solder when you're doing your fan work, and the thinner wire as well. Maybe a couple of thinner wires if you want actual redundancy, but that's not an electrical engineer's idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine, that's a good tip for anyone who wants to learn.
If you actually want to solder it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the actual question was, so I'm always looking at your 3D printer and thinking, should I go to the shops and buy a $3,000 printer or something like that for me? What do you find your best uses for the 3D printer?
So we've had definitely very different experiences. So 3D printers are a fickle. Me and Kevin don't get along very well at the best of times. And you just bought a Creator 5 and have not had very much fun.
I have not printed one thing yet. I've had it for 2 months and it hasn't had a successful print. And from people that I've talked to, because I want to print armor and stuff as well, from people that I've talked to who also own them, they will never come in the box ready and working.
Except for mine.
You are lucky. You're lucky. Everyone I've talked to, you always have to buy more parts. You always have to replace something. You always have to change the wiring.
So there's a difference between kit printers and pre-made printers. So kit printers are where you come and you have to assemble all the parts yourself, and you've got to plug everything in, and you got to program it, and all that kind of stuff. The one that I have is from FlashForge, and it comes working pretty much straight out of the box. They give you a piece of software that's your slicer, and it comes with the print settings already programmed in. So you can go, this is what we assume, given that you're probably using PLA, that you need this much retraction, you need this much this, you need this much this, and that's going to be what it puts it through. Like then you can go back and make those adjustments, but because there was those pre-made settings, it can print pretty much straight out of the box. If you're willing to sit there and learn.
So I have a Creatility V4, and it came half assembled, so you just put and plugged it in and then just put a couple screws in, and that's it. But even the slicer they gave with you, like with the printer for it, I was having issues with it, Googled it, no one uses it because it's shit. So I had to download a different slicer, and then I've been trying to print with it. It turns out the nozzle that's on there must be blocked somehow, so I'm gonna have to replace that. The sensor that's in the one that I got, it's a very common issue where it likes to stop the filament, so it's just...
It depends if you have the patience.
Yeah, it's
the parts are worth it. I really like it. The one thing to note about if you're using anything 3D printed, especially 3D printed bases, there is not very much temperature that it takes to warp it. No. So if you leave your suit in a hot car, it's gone. You're gone. You're done. Screwed. So there's something to be said about 3D printed head bases, as well as them being a bit more brittle than resin. I have another question, but does anybody else have another question? Yes. Oh. Playing musical chairs with Foxy.
They're normally fine once you have them fine-tuned, but the setting up phase when you're building it yourself is the worst.
So this could be for either of you, but mainly for Skye. Have you thought about, I know you were selling at your dealers den eyes that you'd already printed out and and stuff. Have you thought about maybe setting up like an Etsy store and selling them? Because when I tried to look for eyes to buy from Australia, there was just nothing.
I know there's a couple that really don't exist at the moment. At the moment, I might start selling them on my website. It depends on the interest, because honestly, if there's too much interest, then I'm not going to be able to print my own stuff. I've only got one 3D printer. And then you kind of end up in a situation where some people who print Fursuit parts have a 1.5 year wait time because they only have so many printers. And I can tell because I've seen some of the parts that they're rushing and they're not adjusting their print settings, and you can see it's so hot. And I don't want to be that. So I might do like batches and bring them up, but it would be a kind of a limited run thing.
I would like to do that eventually because the printer that I have has a 40 centimeter print base, so I can print essentially 6 sets of eyes at once. But it's still not working yet. So.
I mean, I'll probably put them on the website because I hate Etsy.
Oh, Etsy. Okay,
Fuck
so
Etsy.
never recommend Etsy to anyone. One, their fees now are ridiculous. Two, they love to screw over the people that are selling on their website. And three, it's so easy to steal off. And also if a customer is really easy for them to get their money back and still get their product through Etsy as well. So,
which can mean that when they get the product, they go, I didn't get it, and Etsy's like, okay, refund.
Here, have the $200.
For me, the tipping point was I was selling my enamel pins the first run, so I was really excited. I had a lot of interest. And then I sold like 2, and then Etsy was like, hey, can I have your ID? And I'm like, sure, here's a scan in of my driver's license on both sides. And they were like, psh, not good enough. And I'm like, what do you want from me?
And I do this wonderful thing, which when you have your own website, it doesn't do, called relisting fees, where they'll charge you every time it sells on top of the other fees that they charge you, just for the convenience of them putting it back up for sale.
I feel like we've gone on a fuck Etsy sidetrack. Anyway, we hate Etsy. Any other questions? You're right there.
What's your opinion or what's your advice on long tails that are gravity defying? I'm trying.
I mean wiggle tails.
Yeah, I love wiggle tails.
Won't drag.
That won't drag.
EVA foam.
They're hard. Yeah, EVA foam, and they're hard to wash. That's something that's really worth mentioning, is those with the foam cores, unless you're willing to unpick it and take out the foam, which I don't think many people are.
One thing I do with that is just like a little sleeve that is slip in. But
sleeve.
if I can plug another makeup,
Plug away.
Netflix has a fabulous tutorial about it, and she even goes into detail about how to do the base to get it secure to your thing. It's like 2 hours, and it's really worth the watch if you want to learn how to do it. It probably won't work the first time you make it because they're really hard.
They're really challenging.
Really hard, but give it a go. Her tutorials are fabulous.
But Neffy's doing really awesome stuff at the moment. So
she's just a great person.
Yeah, she's lovely. To be aware that they are very challenging. They can not quite work. It can a lot of material. The ones that I've been doing are short, but they still have the same motion, and you can remove the stuffing from them, and they're easy to clean. I don't do big long ones.
I'll be doing 2 minute ones soon.
Ooh,
wish me luck.
Good luck. Do we have any Twitch chat questions? All right, cool. Just checking. All right, next question. I'm going over the other side. Poor folks. We love to see. We don't have money this year.
So I was wondering, when it comes to like refurbishing a head, if you're either wanting to change markings or maybe slightly change the shape, what is the worst part of refurbing? Like that you have to sort of get over the hurdle of?
Stripping the base. Just because like there's many ways to do it, and it depends on do you want to keep the fur? Because the best way to strip is literally take a heat gun to it and melt all the glue, and then just take it off.
But if you want to save the fur, then you have to do like a little, try and get like something to like slide and
gently like cut it away. It depends on what you want to save. I mean, this is a base that's been refurbed thrice. So I literally just picked it off, and I was changing the foam slightly, so I wasn't too worried about it. And people I'm not too anal about how clean my bases come out. A lot of people are like, it must be Baby Bunch smooth, and I'm like, no. Because the way that I do my shaves means if I have imperfections in the foam, I can fix it in post, essentially. If I've gotten a lot better at my shaves, and that's come with practice. They've been my least favorite thing to do on the face of the earth ever. I hate shaving, it makes me want to cry. Yeah, honestly, even like pre-shaving for on the ground. If you're wondering why I've been coughing, that's because I've inhaled so much microplastic.
Oh yes, wear a mask,
ventilators.
because you'll get this fabulous thing called shaver's lungs. And it's where there's literally so much fiber buildup on your lungs, you have to have surgery to have it removed. They found that out through people who are doing dog grooming, like as their full-time job, would go into the hospital with fur caked on the inside of their lungs, and it can kill you. Yeah. So wear a mask.
Yeah, wear like the dust masks at
Yeah.
least that you get from like Bunnings that you do like do painting and sanding walls.
Or even these cotton masks are fine, because the fibers aren't tiny.
No.
Really? I've been fine with mine.
I had
triple
mine,
layers.
but I've been shaving. I shaved for like a week straight.
Are you
I
washing it every day then?
I was, but it's still like because it's not like a perfect seal.
Oh, wow.
It like the air would just you made yours.
I made mine, so it's
today.
today.
So yeah, definitely recommend getting proper dust masks for that. Or
Just make sure they fit your face.
Mercy making is a dangerous game. Any other questions? Let's go up the back, and then I'll go back to you.
Hi there.
Hello.
For people looking to get into fursuit making or just making tails and parts and all that, are there any good places to buy fur here in Australia?
Maybe.
Fur addiction, depending.
Fur addiction's
Yeah.
a weird one because they only have limited runs of everything.
Yeah, but they're good for learning with.
They're good for learning with. So Fur Addiction has like fancy furs that mainly used for making like those fancy
Teddy
bears. At the moment, we do have one supplier of luxury shag, and that's Bartfeld.
Yeah, but I've had mixed
Really?
results with the quality.
Yeah, don't buy Bartfeld's beaver. That's the really dodgy, like sheeny
Yeah,
backing.
I had
really
to use it for a full suit recently on request of the customer. Yeah, yellow for the platypus because they specifically sent me the link and were like, use this. I'm like, no.
Have you considered not?
And I couldn't find a colour equivalent that they were happy with, so we did use it. And good. I told them
But no, so yeah, Bartfeld's a good one, but okay, let's just do some maths here. If I'm going to Spotlight, and I'm buying, for example, like the fur that I've used for the neck proof, I can buy that at Spotlight. It's like $80 a meter. And if I go to fabric.com or How, I'm expecting to pay about 20 to 30 US dollars a meter, which is about 50 Australian dollars a meter, around about. So if I factor in shipping, it's pretty much exactly the same, literally. So yes, it's scary having this big, really big scary, like, oh my God, I paid $500 for this, and then you probably pay $500 anyway. So you kind of go, well, if I just have to wait a little bit longer to get the furs, and you seriously get so much better stuff ordering from well-known websites.
the only benefit from going to Spotlight is you can touch it yourself, feel it, and see how thick it is. Because there is a fabulous brown that they have.
Yes,
every now and again.
the long browns.
It's
The brown
gorgeous.
boxes.
But then there's like other things that they have that I don't want to name because it's that horrible. So
Like toy fur.
yeah, it's a 50-50. It's just the benefit of you can go in there and touch it and see how good it is.
It was how and what other?
How fabric.
Well, I've got swatch sheets, and we'll have a little bit at the end where people can come up and touch things. And we have all the materials and stuff here, so people can come up and be like, oh, what is? All right, and we had one more question.
Oh, she got it.
Oh, there you go. All right, any other questions?
We got to a question.
Is having a fur head with paper mache inside bad? I don't know. Well,
Guess what happens when you get hot?
you sweat.
You sweat. Guess what happens to paper mache when you sweat?
Moldy. Stinky. You can't clean it. If you sweat, it's good for a one-time wear. For Halloween,
for like Halloween
that's
or something.
fine. Don't care. But if you're constantly wearing it, you're going to be sweating so much.
And if you don't use the right glue to seal it properly, it's going to melt.
Oh yeah, actually.
It'll melt.
Stinky. You don't want melting fursuits.
And some glue's toxic, so if you use the wrong glue again, you'll inhale it and pass out.
Yeah, so paper fursuits, great for first, if you want to like, I've actually used paper before to like draft patterns.
Yeah.
Like you can use it to do like those EVA foam patterns if you really want. But
that's a whole other
yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. But yeah, I think that helps. Any other questions from live studio audience? What's the time? How much time we got? We've got 10 minutes. Are we cool if we just call it here and we can have people come up and look at stuff? Is that alright, Foxy? Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for coming, guys. Yes, pluggity plug.
I talk about all the tricky stuff about resin making, and I don't just give you one option, I give you 2 to 3 for each thing, just in case you're allergic to something or can't use those tools.
But wait, there's more. Buy now and get free stay night. Alright, thank you so much for coming. Feel free to kind of, there's a ballad in the way. That might be a bit of a challenge. Physical challenge. So I'll put some stuff out on the ends and people can come up and have a look. But thank you so much. Feel free to come up and chat and we'll have a bit of a debrief. Yeah. So thank you very much.